Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammy and Nathan Yeager. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about the 4 attachment styles, the 2 bonding hormones, and how shared crisis and solving problems together helps build a strong relationship. But before we dive into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
The thing that fueled me up the most was our conscious pit stop.
Yeah.
So if you've listened to the show for a period of time, you'll know that every year Nathan and I take 1 or 2 days to do our annual game plan, where we lay out what are our priorities for the year, what are our goals, what are our intentions, what are we trying to get done. And then every quarter, so at the change of the season, we check in with how that annual game plan is tracking. So that's what we did over the weekend. We spent some time to look at our big grand vision and what we're working towards at the moment. We checked in on the goals that we set for winter and whether or not we did or didn't achieve them, and then set our priorities for spring. So we've just sprung into spring in Sydney. And it was really nice to check in on our progress for the year, see how we're going, get back on the same page and update the calendar and all of those kind of very proactive planning kind of things. It felt really good. It had felt a little bit like it was overdue. So it arrived definitely right at the right time, I think. But yeah, that really fueled me up. What about you?
Yeah, that definitely fueled me up as well. That was the thing I was going to use as my fuel up. But I think one of the things just in and around that was that we did a big goals check-in on our, I think we had 16 goals for this year.
16 shared goals, right?
16 shared goals.
That you and I are working on together.
Yeah, and then a few personal ones as well. But the interesting thing was that there were a couple of goals in there that life, I guess, has just taken us in different directions and we're no longer priorities. So it was really nice to actually be able to reflect back. Reflect back on some of those and make the decision to let it go and that it's no longer a priority for the remainder of our year. And I think that's just a really important thing to keep in mind as well, is just because you've set a goal doesn't mean you have to pursue it at all costs. Like if it is no longer serving you or no longer taking you in the right direction, be conscious about it and make that decision to let it go.
Yeah, I really liked that we got the opportunity to refocus and go, okay, if we've got 12, 13 weeks left of our year, we call our year done at the end of spring. So when we enter summer here, 1st of December, Nathan and I, that's generally when we land our annual game plan. So we do our 2 days of planning, at the end of spring, so that we start summer and that's our new year. So yeah, it was really nice to look at what we've achieved so far and then to go, hey, look, life went a different direction than what we thought and this is no longer a priority, and let it go. But then there was other stuff that we've done and other stuff that we are very on track with and ready to be done. So maybe it's worth sharing too that we set goals across all areas of our life. You know, a big part of this show is about living a beautiful, fueled up life. So we do set goals in the various areas. So for our romantic relationship, for our household, for our career and business, for our
wealth and lifestyle, and for the world and for the future.
Yeah. So, you've probably heard us talk. One of the things that we were doing for our future last year was the will. So that was a really big building block thing that we wanted to get done for the future. And now this year we're talking about engaging financial external advisors and support to help us build wealth. And that's very much planning for our future. So yeah, it was really nice to feel like last year's building blocks, we're working on the next step. But yeah, we set goals in all areas of our life, and it's really nice that it's something that we share and that we do together, and I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
But yeah, that fueled me up, and also just spring weather in Sydney. We went to the beach, we did a coastal walk. It was a really great weekend.
Yeah, it was really nice. But now let's dive into this week's ep.
Today we've got Adam Lane-Smith joining us. Adam has coached clients through his attachment method for years, and he's helped people from a variety of lifestyles, from blue-collar families with marital troubles to millionaire CEOs looking for dating help. Anyone looking to fix their dating life, marriage, or overall health of relationships should connect with Adam. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we're really, really excited to have you here.
So, Adam, take us way back to the beginning. How did you get interested in coaching and, more specifically, attachment?
So I was a licensed marriage and family therapist for many, many years. And what got me into that was that I grew up with my own attachment issues. I grew up in a very broken extended family in an area where there were a lot of other broken families too. So I was the kid in early teens with all the other kids that would come to when they had depression, when they had anxieties, they would come to me for help. And I helped them and did everything I could, untrained completely and fumbling, obviously, but making my own poor choices in relationships, of course. And eventually I grew and realized, wait a minute, I could actually, number one, get proper training for this. Number two, help people actually help them. Number three, fix my own challenges. And number four, maybe get paid for it. So I went to school and I got my master's degree in psychology. And then I went on for another 3 years apprenticeship to get my license as a marriage and family therapist. I studied attachment theory, which very few people were studying or were teaching at that point. It was very hard to find information about it. So I've specialized into it. And now I teach people all over the world. I retired my therapy license just so I could coach everywhere. And I coach people all over the world now to continue loving each other, to build those connections, to help people who are emotionally insecure and afraid and whether sabotaging their relationships. I help them build really loving relationships that can last a lifetime.
I really like that you just shared that, because we've had a couple of psychologists and the like on the show who have also made the decision to move from a registered or organized psychology practice to a coach, because a coach or the coaching industry is unregulated, and that is both the pit and the peak of that. But they wanted to be able to have a further scope and be able to, even just things like to be able to publish testimonials. Like, psychologists can't really do that. So thank you for sharing that, and the ability to coach beyond borders, beyond country borders, beyond the lines that we created. Because I know that there's obviously people listening to the show who might one day want to reach out to a psychologist or a counselor or a coach. And I think if you're not in those waters, maybe sometimes you wouldn't understand what the difference is. Do you maybe just want to give us a quick one-liner on how you see them as different?
So if an athlete is injured, they get a diagnosis and they go to a healthcare provider. That would be a therapist. They work with diagnoses. If an athlete wants to overcome challenges that are holding them back, if they want to break through to the next level and achieve something amazing, they hire a coach who knows how to get them there and can get them results. That is the difference. I'm a coach to get people results instead of to work on diagnoses.
Perfect. That was perfect. So we've done a couple of episodes on the show where we've touched on attachment theory, but by no means have we done a deep dive. So I would love for you to share, if someone's never heard this term before, never heard about this methodology, what is it?
Attachment theory, it's really simple. It is the way that a little child learns if they are going to be loved and have their needs met. If their parents take care of them, cooperate with them, explain things to them, give them stability, and give them love, then they grow up with secure attachment, knowing that they can just cooperate with other people. Their nervous system is really calm and smooth. They aren't afraid of relationships. They don't play games, and they just work with other people. And when a problem happens, they solve it together with other people. That's secure attachment. And the research shows that about 35% of adults have secure attachment. It's getting worse. So 2/3 of people, about 65%, have broken attachment, insecure attachment, which is where a child learns that either they aren't worthy of love and they have to earn love and approval from other people by being interesting, by being perfect, by doing everything right, by doing nice things for other people so those people do nice things for them. That's anxious attachment style. They're afraid of being abandoned. Or they learn that other people are not to be trusted, that other people are fickle, other people are dishonest, other people get stressed out and will turn on them. Sometimes they really fear and hate other people. And that's avoidant attachment style. They have to manage other people or stay away from other people. And the most manipulative version of that attachment style will see them doing things like gaslighting, lying to other people, love bombing, all kinds of behaviors which are designed to hook anxiously attached people who crave approval into their web and pull them in and then get their needs met from them. And you are either in one camp or in the other. And a lot of people are hearing this are probably freaking out because they're realizing that they have an attachment issue right now. And that's okay. You can fix it.
Tell us, you said early on that you had some issues with your attachment. Tell us about your own journey about discovering this about yourself.
So like many young men in modern America, I had what they called nice guy syndrome of you have to be nice, you have to be kind, no one is going to like you, you're not good enough, you have to be interesting, you have to do everything right, And if you don't, people will leave you behind. They'll walk away from you because you're not good enough. I had to fix that in myself. It was very, very hard. I had nobody around me who knew what attachment was. I didn't know what attachment was. I just made myself start having those conversations. A lot of the programs that I run right now, my book, Slaying Your Fear, my attachment bootcamp, they're built on the pathways I use to fix my own attachment, of finding what my core values were and living to those instead of living to other people's approval, making my own choices, especially when it mattered, of being open and honest with other people. When I was overthinking, the only way to fix that is to open up to the person that you're thinking about and worrying about and talking to them to see if there's really a problem, and if so, what you need to do to fix it. Otherwise, you just boil inside your own head. By doing those things, I managed to fix my own attachment, and then it became my quest to help other people do it too, so they wouldn't have to be alone when they did it like I was.
So if people are trying to work out what their attachment style is, or are a little bit confused about what theirs might be, how can they kind of go ahead and actually dive a little bit deeper and work that out?
So it's actually fairly simple. If you are fearful of abandonment because you believe there's something wrong with you on the inside that everybody else can see, that makes you not worthy, that if they see it, they will abandon you and walk away from you, and that you will deserve it. That's usually anxious attachment style. It's the approval seeking one of, please don't leave me. I know I don't deserve love, but I'll do anything. And they become often codependent. They find people who have problems and they earn love by solving those people's problems over and over and over for them. And it's really heartbreaking. And they can't really ask for their needs to get met. They have to do 10 nice things for you, hoping that you will do one nice thing for them and read their mind and do it. That's anxious attachment style. And they usually pair up with avoidant attachment people who are petrified of being trapped, of being hurt. They're usually afraid of commitment. If they do get into commitment, they are afraid of asking for their needs to get met. They feel smothered very easily. They want to run away, but they don't want to say that they need space. So then they pull away, which freaks out the anxious person, who then chases them. And then the avoidant person freaks out because they're being chased. So then they run faster. And they end up just driving each other nuts, and it tears the relationship apart. They can actually survive until they have kids, and then usually gets worse and worse and worse. This is one of the biggest causes of divorce here in America. I wrote this book above my head, Exhausted Wives, Bewildered Husbands, because so often the wife will have anxious attachment. She will fix it. And once they have kids, she'll fix a bit of hers, but the husband has avoidance, and he does not understand why she's acting different, why she's pressuring him to be different. A lot of young couples right now who think that your problems are not that big, it's okay. You guys just constantly are never on the same page. 10, 15 years down the line, it could really be the make or break part of your relationship. So if anybody's hearing, yeah, I'm anxious, or yeah, I'm avoidant, or they're avoidant, take care of it now. It's the right time.
So you mentioned that the anxious and avoidant types often end up together, but that's also true for secure types, isn't it? That they often attract each other because they don't need to play the games or chase or run.
Absolutely. Two totally different dating pools. Secure people signal to secure people, and they understand each other. They almost don't understand insecure attachment. It seems confusing to them, so they just kind of shy away from it. And insecurely attached people try to bond way too fast. Secure attached people won't do that. They'll just back off. And securely attached people, honestly, they don't throw enough attraction in the first few meetings into it and really overwhelm the insecurely attached people the way they expect. So love bombing doesn't happen. Neither side understands that the other side is interested. So neither side actually is interested in the other. So it's really strange to see the dating pools separate out like that. It's like oil and water.
Mm, yeah. And secure people don't tend to stay in that dating pool for long, do they?
No, they pair up pretty quick. They're pretty honest about what they want. Once I fixed my attachment, I became secure. I met my wife, and we got engaged at 2 weeks, and we got married at 11 months. And we've been married now for almost 15 years. And we're expecting our 5th child together. So once you become secure, dating becomes completely easy. It's just up till that, it's hard until you fix it.
Yeah, I think this is such an interesting thing to learn about yourself. We had some friends going through some relationship turbulence, let's call it, recently, and they went and read Attached and started to unpack a little bit about what each of them were going through. And, you know, they really only started their self-development journeys like in their early 30s after they were married, and luckily before children. But it's a really big growth trajectory and opportunity when you start to learn and get curious about this part of yourself.
Really quick,
Yeah.
how fast did your friends start improving once they started studying attachment theory?
They were working with a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there was an element of that, and one of them lent far further into the growth opportunity
Mm-hmm.
than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
One was much more ready
Mm-hmm.
to dive in than
Maybe
the
the other
other.
was avoidant.
Usually the anxious person just says, "Oh, thank God, it's not me. I'm not the problem," and then they leap into it because they're so grateful. But the avoidant person, their whole life has been spent being suspicious of other people. So when they're told, like, "Hey, unicorns can fly, and we're going to bring you a magical unicorn," like they don't believe it. It takes them a long time to ease into it. The reason I asked was I've had couples come in and they just discovered an affair 2 weeks ago, and they come into me as a last ditch effort to try to save their relationship. I teach them attachment theory. We work on fixing their attachment, and 3 weeks into the sessions, they're happier than they've ever been as a couple ever. So what's that?
Mhm.
5 weeks? 5 weeks after an affair, if couples do their attachment work, I've seen miracles happen with couples because you're finally getting the love that you've never had. It's phenomenal.
Mm.
So everybody out there, do it.
And understanding your own behavior and your partner's behavior.
Yes, it makes sense. When it makes sense, we could deal with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, like, what did the work look like for you once you had figured out, hey, this is a pattern, this is an opportunity for me to grow and evolve and shift from that anxious to more secure? What did that work actually look like? What were you doing?
For me, that was learning to say no when I wanted to say no, and to be able to explain, hey, I'm going to have to say no, and here's why, and then relating it back to my values, my three core values, like honesty, integrity, compassion. Hey, I can't do that. That's not honest. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm sorry. If you still have a need, we can find another way to take care of it, but I'm not going to be able to do it that way. And honestly, other people who were secure would say, "Great, thanks for telling me. Let's not do that. Let's do something better." And people who are avoidantly attached and manipulative at that time would say, "Well, no, come on, just this once. Hey, I'm not important enough to you." And they would push and push and push, and learning that was okay. That had nothing to do with me. That had everything to do with them. In fact, learning that filtering that way for who should be in my life and who shouldn't, that was enormously important. That was a big part of the work for me right there, was just learning to say no and give a little context and let the chips fall where they will.
And starting to use language like, that's an unattractive trait to me, or that's an unattractive behavior.
Just being honest and saying, I'm sorry, I can't do that, or I'm sorry, that is against what I believe. And just being blunt about your values, your goals. I'm sorry, my long-term goal is this, so if I do that, it's going to hurt that. So I'm not willing to do that for you. Sorry, you'll have to find somebody else. Even be willing to walk away from relationships if they're not a good match like that. That's, instead of feeling like you're going to die because someone doesn't approve of you, feeling like it's okay because you're going to find someone who is a right match for you. That was a big piece.
Yeah. So I know that saying no is one of those things that can be really challenging to people, especially if they've kind of never really said it before. And I think there's a lot of people who don't really say no. They'll say yes and then maybe retract on that later or something, but like just really struggle with saying that. But I really
or they say yes and then really poorly deliver or bail out at the last minute and do way more damage than if they just said the no in the first place.
Yeah.
That's usually the division there, interestingly. Avoidant people will say yes but not mean it and then find ways to bail out. Anxious people will say yes but then resent you the entire time and make it so much worse. Those are usually the two splits right there.
Oh, I like that you delineated that. And all of those kind of things are like building the muscle of your own personal boundaries, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I like that you linked your saying no back to your core values. So how did you go about, I guess, understanding your core values and working out what was really important to you?
Yeah, so I guide my clients through this, and here's what I tell them is look at the places where you have been most ashamed of yourself. Look at the places where it hurts the most when somebody else pushes you to do something you don't want to. Look at the parts that if somebody walked up to you and said, this is not really, you're not really a honest person, are you? You're not really a very compassionate person, are you? Where would it hurt the most? The most hurt, the most shame, the most guilt, those are the places where your values really lie, where the big ones are. And I tell people, pick out 2 or 3. You just have to pick out 2 or 3 and start making your decisions around those things. And it's the ones that hurt the most. This is why people hate themselves, is because their attachment leads them to do these things where that they hate and violate their principles for the approval of others. And if you stop that, the self-hatred stops very quickly. The self-respect starts to build. And then other people who actually care about you start to respect you a lot more. And it's a wonderful circle.
I think that most of us have probably had an experience like with a coworker who is very good at saying no, like, no, I won't do that, or that's not mine, or yes, I can take that on, but that means something else is going to have to fall off of my plate. And they're not necessarily the most liked person in the office, but they're often very respected. And I think that's what we forget about having personal boundaries, is that you can be really kind in holding that boundary and protecting yourself and preventing that resentment or that avoidance or that creating opportunities where you need to backpedal on what you've said you'll do. But I think it actually builds a lot of respect when you have relationships with people who can say no and do say no.
Absolutely. Well, and people get this wrong. It is nice to always say yes. It is assertive to say no. And it is kind to say no and to provide context and to offer cooperation on the other person's need. No, I can't do that. Here's a little bit about why. What can we do to meet your need anyway? What's the core need that you have that wouldn't violate that for me? That would be kind.
And they're different things, aren't they? Nice versus kind.
Enormously different.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that when I started to really lean into being firmer about my personal boundaries, establishing them, I read Sarah Knight's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Saying No. I think that's the name of the book. And she talks about this idea of a fuck budget, and that we only ever have as much time, money, and energy as we've got, right? And that we can actually choose how we spend that. And do you really want to be spending your precious time, money, or energy on things that are not for you, are not, or don't derive joy, or don't derive pleasure, or don't build relationships with people that you really care for and want to maintain? So you're spending all your fuck budget on the wrong things. I think that was a really great lesson for me to start to get far more conscious about what I was saying yes to. And I think one of the little mantras that I picked up when I was really working on that was like, don't say yes when it's a lie.
How did the people in your life take that when you started saying no a little bit more? Were they supportive? Were they attacking? Was it both?
I think it was both. And I think it took me a little while to get good at it too, in communicating I'm saying no to this, but here's why. Like, even as an example, like last night, a couple of my girlfriends, they sing in a choir, an amateur singing glee club, and it's their annual concert. And ordinarily I would have just that only happens once a year. They're really good friends of mine and I really want to support them. And ordinarily I would buckle up and go to that regardless of what was going on in my world. And the last 2 years I've said no and sent flowers because it wasn't in my remit to have the time, money, and energy for when that event fell. And I think it was uncomfortable for me to say no the first year, but now I'm like, no, like I've been traveling for work this week. I'm traveling next week. I really just need that time for myself. And I feel really comfortable to do that now. Whereas I think I probably felt the need to over explain myself when I first started saying no.
One thing I've noticed is that when I talk to clients and I say, hey, look, you're going to have to start saying no, and some people won't like it, and you are going to lose some of the people in their life. They freak out because that's most of the people in their life, and they worry they're going to lose everyone and be totally alone. But what I tell them is expect to find that the people who stay in your life, you have a richer relationship with, and then you're going to start attracting healthier people that will fill your life better than it was filled before. Can you talk to me? Has that been your experience? And if so, is that true? Have you found that it's richer when you are able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like most people, I've probably had the hardest time holding those boundaries, exerting those boundaries, putting them in place and holding them in place with family. Nathan and I live in a different state to our family. So the time that we have with them is different than if we saw them every week. And that one was quite hard to put better boundaries around our time. Like the first year that we lived away from our family, we took 7 or 8 trips back to our home state in that first year, and now we do one. We're much better at holding better boundaries about what we will attend, what we'll prioritize, what we'll spend our time, money, and energy on, because it can't be everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's a question for you, Nath. Do you feel like that was a big shift for me?
Yeah, I think it was. And I think there was also, I think you almost went through some sort of grieving process knowing that you might be losing some friends. Like even potentially before it's happened, that you're going, oh, well, if I say no to this thing, then, or if I say no to this friend, then is that relationship going to deteriorate? And so I think there's been a little bit of a grieving process or a reassessment process for a few people in your life too.
It was probably like a reassessment and being okay to let people go too. Like not everybody deserved to be in my inner circle. And it took a little while to shift some people from, I use like the concert analogy. Nathan and I are big on
stage,
live music, the stage.
Yeah.
It's like, who gets to be on stage with you? Who gets to be side of stage? Who gets to be in the green room? Who gets to be in the, front row versus who's like up in the nosebleed section and, and who's
Or
not
who's
even
not even
permitted,
invited
not even
to the-
inside the arena.
Yeah.
So moving people, I agree. That was a bit of a tricky thing to navigate. And especially when you start to consider like, why are we friends? Like when I ask myself, like, why am I in this relationship with this person? For what reason? Is it because we've always been friends? And if I met that person today, would I still develop that same kinship and appreciation and love and devotion and respect for that person? Or would we actually just probably not vibe anymore? Thank you for calling that out, because I think that was a big shift.
Yeah.
So Adam, you said that we can start to repair it when we start to get aware of it. So it's not all doom and gloom if you've learned something about yourself and you don't maybe like it, or you like the idea that it could be different. But you said you went through a big transition, felt like you'd landed in the secure quadrant, and then you met your person. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I met my wife. She was the friend of a dear friend. Actually, both of our best friends were dating each other. And they introduced us, and this is what I teach a lot of my clients: like, meet people through people. Don't just meet strangers necessarily. Have your friends introduce you. It worked great for us. And I knew within 2 weeks of meeting her that she was the woman I wanted to spend the rest of my life with and have children with. So I told her that. I said, all the rule books and everybody on the internet will say, don't ever do this. And I said, no, I like you. You're wonderful. You are a person of every character that I've been looking for. I want to build a family together, and I want you to be the person I build that family with. Would you like to do that with me, and will you marry me? And she said, yes. And that was it. So we said, okay, let's see if we can break each other up in this next year and see if we could wreck things by stress testing our relationship for the next year or so and see what it looks like. And we went through the ringer. We asked every question that couples avoid. We did everything that couples try to tiptoe around and not have the difficult talks. We had them immediately, as fast as possible. If we found a hard topic, we're like, ooh, let's do this one. And then we would dive into it as fast as we could. And we did everything we could to break up. And it didn't happen. We just loved each other more. And we just found that we were more and more compatible. And when we would go through stress, we treated each other with respect, and we cooperated, and we solved the problems. Neither one of us tried to make excuses or rationalize or blame. Neither one of us was trying to earn approval from the other one and try to be weird about anything. It was just straightforward teamwork and honesty, and it made everything work. So at the end of 11 months, I said, why wouldn't we get married at this point? Why? I don't want a woman like you getting away. So I married her, and we've had a great life ever since. It's been almost 15 years.
Did your
now.
friends think you were insane? Your
friends,
your best friends
my
that were dating?
perpetually single friends who to this day are still single and on their 30th girlfriend or whatever. And like, oh, Adam, you have no idea what you're doing. You're getting married at 22. That's stupid. Why would you do that? Your life's ahead of you. And, unfortunately, those guys they're still where they were at that time. My wife and I, we have grown together. We've built a life together. It's one of the smartest decisions I ever made in my entire life. I would not be where I am now without her. I can't even imagine it. So yes, people thought I was crazy, and I did not care because I had done all of the work the proper way. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was the right choice.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you had all these difficult conversations sort of up front. So was there a way that you consciously kind of brought up maybe taboo topics and things like that? Or was it more a more organic process of just feeling things out and then deep diving into topics that might be a bit of a sore point?
So there's two approaches. One is taking the inspiration approach from you watch a movie and say, "Ooh, there's a topic we should talk about." Or how do you feel about pause? How do you feel about that? Or has that ever happened? Or what would you do in that circumstance? How would we tackle that as a couple? If this happens to, watch rom-coms and stuff. If that happened to us 10 years from now, what would we do? And laying out those plans and just seeing who's compatible with what. That's great, but it's kind of hypothetical. It's a good teaching moment and connecting moment, but it's hypothetical. Anybody can say anything. What really counted was for us, if we encountered any red flag moments in our relationship, if one of us was stressed and we snapped at the other person, or if a painful childhood memory came up that hadn't been resolved yet for one of us, or just anything that came up that was like, I wonder. Instead of just saying, well, I'll just put that in the file and hold it for 10 years before I ask you about it, we would immediately ask the other person, say, oh, hey, wait, red flag. Tell me more about this and how that interacts with how we are now. And we would wait to see if the other person would bristle up. How dare you ask me? Things like that, get defensive. Or if they would say, I get why you're asking. Totally with you. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's talk this through. And we could just navigate the conversations like that. Talking about those red flags as they popped up and seeing how the person handled being poked in those spots, that was really educational for us.
Yeah. I know that sometimes couples don't know what they don't know, right? So when we say you need to talk about it, you need to have the conversation, they're like, what conversation? I don't even know what I don't know or what I should be asking. So can you maybe give us what are the top 10 or 12 kind of topics that couples should be touching on? If they were to do Adam's 12-month intensive, let's try and break up program, what would be the topics that they were tackling?
So
I'm guessing money?
Yeah, I run a lot of couples through premarital coaching, and the first one we talk about is kids. When do you want them? Do you want them? How many do you want? Do you need them? Are you afraid of it? Are you scared? What childhood memories still bother you? What sort of discipline do you want with your children? How okay are you with punishment versus with discipline? Do you know the difference? How do you resolve arguments? Do you face them head on? Do you wait? Do you save them up? How well do you handle conflict? Do you run away from them? Are you scared of it? Do you avoid it at any cost? What sort of future do you want to build? Because you're going to be co-founding a legacy. I tell people that marriage is the business of building a family together is what it really is, or building something together. It's co-founding a life together. So you're going to be co-founding. Ask many of the same questions you would ask a potential co-founder for a business. If you look those up online, that's so much easier to use as a premarital checklist, to be honest with you. I know it's not romantic, but run your partner through a co-founder checklist. It is so much more intensive. They check for substance abuse issues. They check for communication styles. They check for everything that you would need in business. That's so much more applicable in marriage than people are willing to talk about.
Have you ever been bankrupt?
Have you been bankrupt?
No, I have business I have two separate businesses. So Nath is my business partner in one business, and then I have two other business partners in another business. And it that process there's so much to take away from that, because you try, if you're setting up a structure for an entity that you want to last forever, you still talk about the hypotheticals of okay, well, what happens if one of us dies? Yes. What happens if one of us gets incapacitated? What happens if one of us goes in a coma, not technically dead, not technically incapacitated, not really sure how long they're going to be there? What do we do? The list is long, and there's some really good conversations in there. So I like that I'm a big advocate for using tools from business to help your relationship, because like you said, you're co-founding something together. It's very similar in a lot of ways.
It is. Co-founding relationships and picking your spouse are almost identical, and they're the only two relationships on earth that are really like that. There's very few relationships that are even similar to either one of them.
Where you've actively chosen a person to go all in with.
Yeah, to build something together with, and then you need to know everything about them because you're going to be tied together for so long. Yeah, absolutely.
And what do you want to do if someone wants to exit?
Well, that's why you date forever, isn't it? So that you can make sure you take care of each other and keep each other in check.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Adam, I'm curious. So you got together at 22 and we are a number of years later. What are some of the habits and practices that you and your wife have to keep your relationship fueled up?
Ooh, so one of the reasons I like your guys' show here is that you encourage couples not to treat marriage like the finish line. You treat it like the beginning line. Like, okay, that was the appetizer. Here is the main course. Dive in. This is where you actually start doing the real work. And that's so important because that's what's kept my wife and I together. And throughout my work and all my research, what I found is there's two specific bonding hormones that are really important for couples to tackle. Most couples only do one, and it's why a lot of couples fall apart. The one that couples mostly focus on is called oxytocin. Now, this is really important. Oxytocin is very important. It's the love hormone, the snuggle hormone, they call it. It is really important for the female sex drive, especially after the first year. If you know any couples where her sex drive falls off a cliff, it's because they aren't building enough oxytocin, and usually that's an attachment issue problem. But oxytocin is also important for the male sex drive. If you know men who say, "Oh, I can't imagine sleeping with the same woman every day for the rest of my life," or the men who get bored in their relationships, or men who have erectile dysfunction in their relationships, it's often an oxytocin problem, to be honest with you. It's just not as obvious because men can still get aroused. It's not going to quite function the same. Women will have a much harder time. With all of that good business. So oxytocin is generated when we are in an absence of stress. Stress actually blocks the production of oxytocin. So sitting on the couch with your partner, holding hands, watching Netflix, going on a walk together, maybe working out together, having fun, doing small activities together, enjoying each other's presence. All of these things are great for oxytocin. So is making out, so is having a little bit of sex. Great for oxytocin. Fantastic for it. Most couples stop there. They go out to dinner, they have oxytocin. Great. It's a wonderful oxytocin experience. What we have found, what the research shows, is that actually leads couples to fall apart and get bored very quickly. And then when a disaster hits, they're not properly bonded with the second hormone that is actually needs to be in play to protect a couple when they have friction points and when they have difficulty. And it actually starts to decrease the importance of oxytocin for them over time, so they get bored of each other. The second bonding hormone is called vasopressin. Vasopressin is released in the presence of stress when you have solved stress together. So when you have solved a challenge together, when you have put together IKEA bookshelves, when you have rebuilt a car engine, when you have done a jigsaw puzzle, when you have paid off a debt, when you have built a business together, when you have solved some sort of difficult relationship challenge together, when there was stress and you both got together and solved it together and then high-fived afterward and said, "We did this," that's vasopressin. And men have more receptors for this than women do. And when men and women have difficult childhoods where they don't get much oxytocin, their oxytocin receptors will often shift to vasopressin receptors. So you will be more primed to bond this way. If you know people who only trust others when they've gone through hell and back, that's vasopressin. It's that high threshold of we have to solve problems together. Now, for men, vasopressin especially opens the door for oxytocin bonding because it says this person's my ally, they're an asset, they're my friend, I want them in my life. So then it encourages more oxytocin bonding. So ladies out there, if you want your man to be vasopressin bonded to you and oxytocin bonded and invested, solve problems with him. Make sure he doesn't have avoidant attachment because he will think he's solving his problems using you as a tool. But if you solve problems together and then can high five as a couple and say, "We did it," that's vasopressin. And then you'll notice that he's more affectionate afterward. He's more inclined to oxytocin bond, which you will enjoy. Women are usually a lot more prone into oxytocin bonding for a variety of chemical and hormonal reasons. That is it. You must get both of them because when you see couples where there's a disaster and then the man spirals off, finds a woman to comfort him, and then has an affair and then leaves his wife, that's usually because they had very low vasopressin bonding. And women know this, that when you have a crisis, you must already be primed to solve problems together. Otherwise, your brain will drift and will say, "I need to find someone else to solve my problem with," or you'll try to solve it alone. And you'll see couples get ripped apart. A child will die. The wife will get cancer. The husband will get injured. He'll lose his job. Some big crisis hits. If you're vasopressin bonded periodically, even going to an escape room date or something like that. If you're vasopressin bonded routinely together, when the crisis hits, you will automatically move together to solve it. Those are the couples who come together through the crisis. Or if you're not, then you'll fall apart. And women know this. So when they're going in the relationship and people start to get bored, women say, I'm bored. Let's do something new. And you have a new experience, which introduces stress, and then you resolve it together. She is vasopressin bonding the two of them together. This is why women get bored in relationships and want more from their partner. It's a weird intuitive thing that women have. All of that, though, is a roundabout way of saying do both. Do both bonding. One is not enough.
I'm going to verbally process some unformulated thoughts here. So this might go a bit sideways, but stick with me.
Let's do it.
So Nath and I, in our relationship since 2010, overseas travel and experiences has been huge for us. It's been something that we have routinely done about twice a year up until the global pandemic. And then those travel adventures got within country rather than outside of country. And I'm making that hypothesis now that I think that's actually been really huge for us on a couple of these things about like setting goals and intentions and having a core project that we're working together. Tick. New experience, new shared experience, tick, but almost always shared problem solving and crisis solving together where we only have each other to rely on, tick. And lots of time to sit next to each other on a plane, snuggle, lay next to a pool, have some nice sex in a different environment, new experiences, tick, tick, tick. So I wonder if that's been a really big part of our success, more than just like we live a nice life together.
Yeah.
Give me your professional opinion, Adam.
Let's ask Nate first. What do you think there?
Yeah, I totally think that that's been a part of it, because like almost every one of our overseas trips, like I know there's some things that you were kind of solving problems together, but like there's always been some little sort of crisis, whether it's a lost credit card or whether it's
someone very sick.
Yeah, someone very sick, or
accommodation doesn't have our booking, flight cancelled, flight delayed.
So there's always the problem solving together, and we're always in it together as well. So
now here's Nate. I want to ask you this, because most women will say that sounds awful. Your trip was horrible. You must have hated it, and you probably felt farther away from her after those, because women are looking at it as trying to make it a perfect romantic vacation and trip. Let me ask you this: after those events, how do you feel about her? Do you feel closer to her, farther away from her, nothing at all? What's different for you after solving problems?
Yeah, definitely feeling closer, because I feel like the
little bit or a lot.
A lot closer. Yeah. Because I feel like that when we do have those crises, there's not necessarily blame or anything like that. It's we're there to resolve it together.
That's it. You have vasopressin, and then you get in the circumstance, and you get even more vasopressin. That's what you guys are doing. You are stacking it. That's exactly how a couple is supposed to work. You guys are doing it right.
So we should keep getting IKEA furniture.
Correct. Lock yourselves in a room. That's right. Either the shelf gets built or nobody leaves. That's exactly
and
it.
burn the instruction set.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, so I knew that particularly during the global pandemic, like Australia, there was some pretty hard rules about how far we could go from home, how long we were allowed out of our home. Like we lived in a state where we were locked down for like hundreds and hundreds of days. And I knew that the absence of travel was depleting like the variety and the uncertainty and the shared new experiences. But I hadn't really considered that it was creating an absence of problem, probably because we were so busy dealing with the other problems. So perhaps that there was some transference there we were getting vasopressin in another way. But I'm very committed to travel, but now I'm even more committed because it's not just for a good life, it's for a good relationship.
Yeah, that's it.
One interesting thing with the pandemic and all the lockdowns was that we had an explosion afterward of divorces, of domestic violence charges and things like that, because the couples who weren't good together at all and didn't have vasopressin and couldn't solve problems, they fell apart. But what's interesting is most people don't talk about the couples who were vasopressin bonded and got through it together. It was a tremendous bonding experience going through it and coming out the other side together. So the couples who had it got better. The couples who didn't, well, they fell apart.
Mm.
That's stress for you.
So we've mentioned a couple there, the IKEA furniture, the traveling. What are some other things that couples can go about creating this or creating opportunities to create this in a healthy and constructive way?
Yeah. IKEA furniture, obviously, jigsaw puzzles, rebuilding something around your house, doing self modeling around the home, build yourself a garden, do something like that together. It can be going camping and having different tasks. It can be setting different tasks around the home to take care of and taking care of your home together. It can be setting financial goals that you're going to meet together. It can be paying off a debt. It can be buying or building something together. Anything where you solve a problem and you can high five afterward and say, we did it. It's pretty hard to high five and say we did it after cuddling, but after building, reupholstering your favorite couch, you can definitely do it. After painting a picture or taking a cooking class and then cooking that meal together as a couple. Cooking together is an incredible experience, especially if you can divide up the roles and then cook a great meal together and then share it and celebrate it. Maybe post it on Instagram. It's fantastic when you can do that thing. When you achieve a mission together, it's just a little bit of vasopressin and it starts adding up really quickly.
Yeah. And I think just thinking about our own relationship as well, like over the past 5 or 6 years, we've also clearly set out some goals for our year. So in 2020, we had 20 goals for 2020. And so I'm thinking that there might not be a lot of stress involved in some, or maybe there is some stress
Sometimes
involved in achieving some of those goals, but it is kind of that working together to achieve something. And then we are also very deliberate about celebrating that once we have achieved that goal as well. So giving ourselves the high five.
Do you know the strangest place that I've ever found with couples? The strangest way that men especially build vasopressin with women. It is so weird. Most people don't. The weirdest thing that freaks women out when I tell them this is when a woman's in a relationship with a man who really loves her, he will usually push to try to make her have at least one orgasm or multiple orgasms, right? There's women probably listening to this saying, my man has never done that. But if you're in a relationship with a guy who really cares about you, guys are like, yeah, baby, we're going to give you a 10 today. And she's like, please no.
I'll die.
But here's what's interesting is why are men setting arbitrary goals that they're trying to achieve with weird numbers that mean nothing? Women walk in and say, why is 3 orgasms better than 2 orgasms? Yeah, I don't feel good, but I'm happy with 1. I'm sometimes happy with 0. Sometimes I'll have a few. Why are men setting such weird expectations? They're actually trying to vasopressin bond with you, is what's funny. Men vasopressin bond with you by achieving that goal together. So most women are terrified to say, yeah, I need help orgasming. Yes, I need this. Here's what I would need more from. Could we do this? Whereas most men, if they really care about you and are invested in the relationship, they want to vasopressin bond with you by giving you that ludicrous number of orgasms or as many as you can get. So if women lean into that in their relationship, what most women find is the experience gets so much better for everybody involved because he will actually bond to you a lot better during sex. Sex doesn't bond men, it doesn't seem to, as much without that impact, actually. Otherwise, it's just having a dopamine release typically. There's some oxytocin, but it's a lot of dopamine more for men. But when you involve that and you build that vasopressin with him and let him help you achieve those orgasms, you will actually find it's a tremendously bonding experience for him. So any women out there who are listening who don't do that, please begin and please let him help you because that actually may be the next level for your relationship.
Adam, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, we encourage sex chat on this show because it's a really big part of a healthy, happy, thriving relationship. And we want to do it for forever.
Yeah, and continuing to grow and explore that area is great.
Yeah. So I'm curious, we talked a little bit about a couple of the things that you and your wife are doing in your relationship, but what are some of the foundational habits or practices, maybe the more obscure ones that we maybe haven't heard on the show before? What are some things that you would recommend for couples to do?
So one game changer that I know is going to really shake things up for a lot of couples, it really changed things for us, was setting aside minimum of once a month. And during times of stress, once a week, and during times of intense stress, maybe every other day or every day, is we call it the State of the Union meeting, where just like with a co-founder, you get together and you have a meeting and you do this. You say, scale 1 to 10, how are you feeling in our relationship right now? And most people are already wetting their pants because that's the most terrifying question they could ask, because the other person is going to instantly realize this is a horrible relationship. You're going to break up on the spot. That's why most couples don't make it. If you did that with a co-founder, if you never had a meeting, never discussed how your business was going, you were petrified to discuss problems or ever bring them up, and you never had meetings unless things were on fire, the business would go bankrupt. So don't treat your marriage that way, or your relationship. Sit down.
Or your business.
And go out to dinner. Or your business. Yeah. Please. Sit down, go out to dinner. It takes 15 minutes. You go out and you say, scale 1 to 10. How are you feeling in our relationship lately? And there is only one question you're allowed to ask as follow-up, because the other person will never, ever answer you again. If you say, why? Why is it a 4? What did I do wrong? How do we get you to 10? Well, I'm not very happy either. If you do all that, then they'll never answer you again. But if you say scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? Oh, you're at like a 4. Okay, that's pretty rough. What will it take for us? What do we need to do? Teamwork. What do we need to do to help you go up 1 point?
Mm.
How can we improve things by 10% here in this relationship? Just 10%. By asking that question, you already make them go up 1 point, because you've told them you're on the same side, you care, and you're listening, and you want to solve it. Now, they're not going to tell you a 1 point. They're really going to tell you the most important thing. And they're going to tell you it in a solution-focused way now, because you're being solution-focused. This would help me go up 1 point. Okay, and you verbally commit. I will do that. I do this with my wife. I will do that. And that makes the person go up 1 point as well. So they've gone up 2 points already. And then you actually do it and follow through, and they'll go up a 3rd point. And they have now gone up 3 points, from 4 to 7. And it's that simple. Mm-hmm. My wife and I have used this during very stressful times. We got 4 kids. We got number 5 on the way.
Wow.
I have to travel for work, right? We've been together for we've been married for almost 15 years. You can imagine there's been stressful times. During stressful times, we will say, all right, hey, we got to have a meeting because things are getting rocky and we haven't done the meeting properly in a week or 2. Let's do it. Where are you at 1 to 10? Well, I'm at like a 5. Okay, well, how can we help you go up 1 point? I have just been so tired and stressed out lately. I just need some time away from everybody. And I feel like nobody is letting me get that time. And I'm just so stuck. Okay, hey, what do you need from me to be able to do that? Well, I need just a couple hours. Can I just get out of the house for a couple hours and go to the store and get an ice cream and sit in my car and just not take care of people for a while? Yes, let's do that. When is a good time to do that? You want to do that tomorrow evening? Yes. Okay. And you send them on their way and they come back fully refreshed and super happy. And you can tell I've had that conversation with my wife. That's
that
sometimes
one was a
she
real
just
one.
needs to get away from the Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes she just needs to get away from the pile of children that dog pile on her and beg for food all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's time together. Sometimes it's more sex because one of you hasn't been able to because you've been run down or tired and the other one's hurting for it. Sometimes it's one person is spending too much and buying too many things on Amazon because they were stress spending. Sometimes it's I'm away a lot and I need to have a little bit bigger gaps between those paying times. So I'm home with the family a little bit more. She calls me on that sometimes. It's gently calling each other on the things that you need and sharing it as a solution-focused need. And that has really got us through because we can find solutions together to problems that otherwise we would get defensive about or that we would let slip under the rug for 6 months. Being proactive about it has made a gigantic change for us.
I love that.
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing, Adam. Nathan and I had some guests on the show and they shared something that a couples therapist or counselor had shared with them about the weekly check-in or like the State of the Union meeting. And we call ours happy hour. So we generally do it on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. And we've got a series of questions, but we might add that one. I like that one.
Or we could probably modify one of our questions
to how connected, because we currently use how connected to me have you felt this last week, or how connected do you feel in our relationship? Whereas putting a number to it might be more useful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people say fine, great, happy, and it means so many different things. Putting a number on it, everybody can get on board and then say, oh, that's serious. Let's take care of it.
Yeah, that probably suits Nate's engineering brain.
Analytical brain.
There you go. There you go, Nate.
That's it.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about your experience, your own relationship and what you've seen work well for couples. To say thank you, we've provided some protection to a square metre of the Daintree rainforest here in Australia. We know that life on land is really important to you, so thank you so much for being here and making that possible. We've done that via our partnership with Buy One, Give One.
Well, thank you so much. My kids love Australia and they love learning about it, and I'll share that with them. They'll be so excited.
Yeah.
Amazing. No worries. So, Adam, if people want to connect with you or learn a little bit more about attachment theory or what you do, how can they do that?
Oh, absolutely. So my website is adamlanesmith.com. That's Lane, Lane, like the road. And on there, you will find things like my attachment bootcamp course, which couples can take to bond and fix their attachment together. It's a lot of vasopressin and oxytocin. You can also find me on Instagram. I am at Attachment Adam. I have so many reels and carousels and informational pieces you could snapshot and send right to your partner to start conversations. I'm also on YouTube as at Adam Lane Smith. I've got over 400 video guides over there to build better relationships, to connect and to find love. And I'm on every other platform you could possibly imagine. So reach out and I'm there.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.